My name was Amir. I was a scholar in the Grand Mosque of Mecca, a revered voice among my people, a custodian of traditions that shaped my existence. For 37 years, I upheld the very fabric of my beliefs, teaching the words of the Quran, commanding respect and reverence. But inside, I felt an aching void, a silence that echoed louder than any call to prayer. My heart was a fortress, filled with fear, guarded by doctrine. But during one fateful Ramadan, as I sank into the depths of prayer, that fortress crumbled. A wave of disconnection washed over me, a turmoil that left me questioning everything I'd ever known. I felt it creeping in, a whisper cloaked in shadows. Something wasn't right. What if the very faith that promised freedom was, in truth, a subtle cage? Then came that moment, the moment when everything changed. In a deep meditation, I slipped away. Darkness enveloped me, and there, amidst the void, a piercing light emerged, radiant and pure. It was Him, Jesus. In that sacred space, He called my name, revealing truths that dismantled my understanding of God and faith. I witnessed a spiritual war hidden within the bounds of my cherished beliefs, a revelation that shattered the walls of control that had contained my spirit for so long. When I returned, I was forever altered, a stranger in my own life. The voices of my community turned hostile, their judgment unyielding. I stood at the precipice of a choice: retreat into fear, or forge ahead into the unknown light that beckoned me. The path of truth and liberation lay ahead, a path shrouded in danger yet illuminated by the hope of a divine calling. Now, I invite you into my journey, how I uncovered the deeper truths hidden within the beliefs that once defined me. Join me as I unravel the fabric of my experience, for this isn't solely my story. It's a call to awaken, an urgent plea to recognize the chains of deception binding us all. Before we dive deeper, share with me where you are watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. I want to connect with you. And if you love Jesus and seek the truth behind the veils of this world, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. This journey promises not just revelations, but a profound awakening, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. In the sacred month of Ramadan, I found myself amidst the throngs of believers in the Grand Mosque in Mecca. The atmosphere was thick with reverence. The air vibrated with the sound of prayers and supplications. As a Sheikh, I had dedicated my life to guiding others in their faith, performing my duties with the unwavering conviction that I was following a righteous path. Yet, beneath my devout exterior, a quiet turmoil had begun to stir within me. Questions thrummed at the edges of my mind, urging me to confront the rigidity of our practices and the fear that silenced any form of dissent. I was deeply entrenched in tradition, but uncertainty lurked in the shadows, and I sensed a longing for a more profound experience of faith. During a moment of stillness as I led the congregation in prayer, I felt my spirit begin to unravel. Waves of vulnerability cascaded over me, and suddenly I was engulfed in a sense of disconnection, not just from my surroundings, but from the very essence of my beliefs. In that instant, everything around me faded to black, and I slipped into a state that felt like a deep, disorienting void. Then, almost like a dream unfolding, I was thrust into a vibrant light, standing before Jesus. His presence radiated warmth and compassion, filling my heart with a sense of peace I had long thought unattainable. "Abdul," he called, and his voice resonated within me, cutting through the noise of my confusion. As I stood before him, the heaviness of doubt began to lift. He revealed to me the hidden agenda behind the rigid structures I had upheld for so long. showing me how they controlled and constrained genuine spirituality. I saw the deception played out in political games, how the elite manipulate religious narratives to instill fear and maintain power over the masses. This revelation shook me to my core. I was witnessing a spiritual war, a battle that forced individuals into a state of obedience while stifling the beautiful diversity of belief. In that moment of revelation, I was overwhelmed by the truth that had long been obscured by tradition. I understood that the spiritual connection we seek should not be buried beneath layers of dogma, nor should it be molded into something unrecognizable by fear of judgment. Jesus illuminated the reality of our shared humanity, undoing the barriers that often separate us. I felt a wave of urgency wash over me, the realization that I had to act, to awaken from the slumber of complacency, and to encourage others to seek their truth, no matter the cost. As I returned to consciousness, the noise of the mosque flooded back, but I was changed. I knew I could no longer turn a blind eye to the oppressive structures that sought to dominate our minds and spirits. The fears that had once held me down began to pale against the strength I felt from my experience. It became my mission to share the truth of my encounter, to guide others toward their own awakening, even if it meant risking my status and my connections in the community. I felt the call to challenge the deception that separates souls from their spiritual truths, knowing that the journey ahead would require great courage, but with it, it might liberate not only myself, but many held captive by the same fears and doubts. Inside the Grand Mosque in Mecca, I stand each day as Amir al-Mubarak, a 37-year-old esteemed theologian and Quran teacher, revered by my community for my strict adherence to Islamic teachings. I dedicate my life to guiding others along the path of faith, yet a profound emptiness lingers within me, a void that no amount of recitation or discipline seems to fill. When I sit in prayer, surrounded by devotion and reverence, I often feel a disconnect, as if the deeper spiritual connection I crave is just beyond my reach. Though I present myself with unwavering resolve, inwardly I struggle with the haunting realization that my faith, while well practiced, has begun to feel like a mask. During the sacred month of Ramadan, the atmosphere in the mosque grows even more intense, charged with the fervor of believers. I've always thrived in this environment, but as I lead the congregation through the prayers, I start to feel an unsettling sensation. Each call to prayer echoes, but instead of resounding with faith, it resonates with a question: is this all there is? My devotion feels stifled by the rigid structures and traditions that I've been taught to uphold, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm just going through the motions. The dreams I've been having, visions of light and a beckoning presence, call to me, urging me to seek a truth I have yet to uncover. One evening, while immersed in my thoughts, I collapsed in my private quarters, slipping into a state of unconsciousness that felt both terrifying and strangely liberating. In that dark moment, suddenly everything shifted. Where there had been shadows, I found myself enveloped in a blinding light, and that light took form. Jesus appeared before me. His presence radiated love and understanding, illuminating my soul in a way I had never experienced. "Amir," he said, and in that moment I felt a connection that transcended cultural and religious divides. "You are caught in a spiritual war. It's time to awaken to the truth that has been hidden from you." As Jesus spoke, revelations flooded my mind. I began to see the intricacies of a hidden agenda at play within the very faith I had devoted my life to. It was a deception woven throughout the fabric of society, one that kept the masses, like me, bound by fear and tradition. I witnessed the manipulation of beliefs by those in power, The elite who thrive on division, creating barriers and conflicts among communities. The weight of this truth pressed upon me, igniting a fire of urgency in my soul. Finally, I understood that this wasn't just an internal battle. It was connected to the broader struggles facing humanity, wars driven by greed, social divides fueled by ignorance, and the overarching influence of technology that distorts our perception of reality. As these truths unfolded, a sense of clarity emerged alongside my fear. I realized that I could no longer sit idle, upholding beliefs that served to silence the very essence of my spiritual longing. Confronting these hidden deceptions would come with significant risks. The thought of rejection by my community, my family, the very people I had dedicated my life to guiding, sent a wave of anxiety through me. But the peace I felt during my encounter with Jesus urged me onward. His message was clear. Embracing the truth requires courage, a willingness to break free from the chains of tradition that no longer served me. Just as I began to absorb these powerful revelations, I felt a force pulling me back to my physical body. The light faded, but the warmth of Jesus lingered in my heart. I opened my eyes to the familiar yet stifling atmosphere of the mosque. I knew this experience had irrevocably transformed me. The path ahead would not be easy, but I felt compelled to embrace it. I had been chosen to share these revelations, to awaken others to the spiritual war raging not just outside, but within them as well. The truth I had discovered would require sacrifice, but as I recognized the immense potential for healing and awakening, I understood that sharing this journey was my mission, and one that I could no longer deny. As the prayers commenced inside the Grand Mosque, a thick atmosphere of reverence filled the air, but all I could feel was an unsettling emptiness in my heart. My name is Amir al-Hadi, and for years I've worn the mantle of a Sheikh, guiding the faithful through the teachings of Islam within one of the most sacred spaces in the world. Yet beneath that serious exterior, an internal conflict raged, a spiritual war that left me questioning the rigidity of the beliefs I had upheld for so long. In those moments of prayer, when the chants of devotion echoed around me, I felt increasingly disconnected from the faith that had once defined me. It wasn't just the emptiness that haunted me, it was the unsettling dreams that plagued my nights. I experienced vivid visions of light and warmth, interwoven with whispers of truth that challenged the very doctrines I had devoted my life to. During my waking hours, questions began to gnaw at my consciousness. Were these beliefs truly the keys to spiritual freedom, or were they merely chains disguised as sacred law? The thought terrified me, yet it also ignited a flicker of curiosity, urging me to dig deeper into my faith and beyond its visible boundaries. Then, one fateful day during a particularly intense prayer session, I found myself in a trance-like state. Just as I felt myself sinking into the darkness of my doubts, suddenly, everything shifted. I was drawn into a realm of light, a space so profound that it felt both familiar and yet entirely new. Before me stood Jesus, his presence radiant and imbued with love and understanding. As he looked at me, I felt the burdens of my fears lift slightly, replaced by a burgeoning hope that coursed through my veins. "Amir," he called, and in that single word the veil that had clouded my heart began to fade. In that sacred moment, Jesus revealed to me the truths I had been longing for, the hidden agendas behind rigid religious structures that often led to deception. I witnessed the manipulation exercised by the elite, who used religion as a tool to control rather than liberate. The revelations came like a flood, showing me how these systems bred division, pitting believers against one another and obscuring the essence of spiritual freedom. I felt a surge of urgency within me. The time for awakening was now, and I realized I had a calling to help others who, like me, were grappling with their faith in the grip of oppressive traditions. As these insights settled in, I found myself torn between this newfound understanding and the fear that loomed over me. The fear of rejection by my community, my loved ones, and the very identity I had carved for myself. I stood at a crossroads, where breaking free from tradition could either lead to profound liberation or catastrophic isolation. But the experience with Jesus left me emboldened. I understood that the journey toward truth required bravery, and that sharing my revelations could spark awakening not just for me, but for countless others still entrapped by the world's deception. With every passing moment, I felt the weight of this mission growing, knowing that I could either step into the light of the truth or remain shackled in darkness, forever yearning for freedom. As I sat in the quiet sanctuary of the Grand Mosque, deep in meditation, I felt layers of tension slipping away. My name is Amir, a Sheikh well respected within my community. Yet, even amidst the echoes of devotion surrounding me, a profound emptiness lingered deep in my soul. In a place so revered, where faith should be a source of connection, I often found myself questioning the rigidity of what had been instilled in me. Each prayer seemed to resonate less with genuine faith and more with a mechanical rhythm, one that left me feeling hollow inside. It was during one of these sessions that everything shifted. Suddenly, the world around me began to fade. The soft sounds of worship and prayer dissolved into silence, and I felt my consciousness slip away, descending into a profound darkness. I experienced a disorienting void, filled with uncertainty and a sense of loss. It was in this desolate state that I encountered a brilliant, radiant light, a presence that pulled me closer. As the light expanded, I could see the figure taking shape before me. It was Jesus. His warmth enveloped me, bringing an immediate sense of peace, but also a piercing clarity that shattered the foundations of my beliefs. Amir. He said my name with a kind of authority that resonated through me. As he spoke, a rush of revelation swept over me, illuminating the hidden truths I had been blind to. I was shown the spiritual war that raged around us, the conflict between genuine faith and the deceptive structures that sought to imprison our spirits. The elite I saw had orchestrated a hidden agenda, using religion as a tool to manipulate and control the masses. This revelation struck me hard. I was witnessing, in real time, the ways belief could be twisted into something that results in division rather than unity. The darkness that once surrounded me began to recede, replaced by profound truths about society, politics, and spirituality. I realized how deeply I had been entrenched in traditional practices that often prioritized adherence over authentic spiritual connections. The systems I had supported represented a form of deception that kept people bound, preventing them from experiencing the liberation of true faith. In that moment of clarity, I could feel the urgency. I was being called to awaken, to not only confront these hidden agendas, but to educate others who remained unaware of the manipulation that shaped their lives. Yet, even as I absorbed these monumental truths, a wave of fear surged through me. The stakes were incredibly high. If I choose to embrace this newfound faith in Jesus, what would happen to my standing in my community? How would my family react? The thought of rejection and isolation was daunting. But as I stood before Jesus feeling his unwavering love, I understood that this path required courage. I couldn't allow fear to dictate my actions any longer. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but I had to share this awakening to guide others in their own struggles for truth. My heart swelled with determination, and as the last remnants of darkness faded, I knew I would rise and fight against the deception that sought to keep us all divided. When I regained consciousness, the familiar sounds of the Grand Mosque surrounded me, yet everything felt drastically different. My name is Amir, and as a Sheikh I had dedicated my life to the Islamic faith, revered for my commitment to tradition and piety. But my recent encounter with Jesus shattered the very foundations of my beliefs, leaving me in a state of confusion and profound longing. My heart raced as I recalled the light that enveloped me, the tranquility that flooded my soul, and the love that offered a revelation I never anticipated. I felt an overwhelming desire to share this transformative experience, but I was met with a storm of fear and uncertainty. The moment I attempted to explain my experience to my family, everything changed. Instead of understanding, I was met with harsh words and accusations. They labeled me a heretic, a traitor to our faith. The rejection cut deep, as if a knife had sliced through the fabric of my identity. It was beyond painful. It felt like a betrayal from those who were supposed to love me unconditionally. As their voices echoed in my mind, I wrestled with guilt and fear. Had I truly found the path to truth, or had I strayed into dangerous territory? These questions plagued me as I sat alone in the silence of my room, grappling with the weight of their judgment. I felt trapped between two worlds: the rigid traditions I had upheld and the new revelations that felt increasingly real. As I walked through the streets of Mecca, beautiful and vibrant, I saw the faces of people lost in their own struggles, unaware of the spiritual war that raged around us. I had witnessed how the elite manipulate religious beliefs, using fear to control the masses. I knew that if I could awaken even one person to the hidden agenda that perpetuates this cycle, it would be worth the torment I faced. Yet fear clawed at my heart, telling me to stay silent. What if I lost everything? What if my community refused to accept me if I dared to speak out? One sleepless night, the weight of my thoughts became unbearable. I recalled my visions and felt a wave of determination surge within me. Jesus had shown me the importance of love and compassion, and how those principles could dismantle the chains of tradition. I had to push through this storm of rejection. I knew that to remain silent was to give in to the very deception I had experienced. The cost of awakening was high, but the truth felt invaluable. And as I focused on that truth, I felt an urge to rise up and share what I had learned, regardless of the consequences. As the days turned into weeks, I began to reach out to others quietly, individuals who, like me, felt the stirrings of doubt. Each conversation, each act of kindness, became both an act of resistance and a step toward liberation. Together we formed a small circle of support, helping each other navigate our awakening journeys amidst the daunting risks. I felt a renewed sense of hope, even in the face of uncertainty. If I could bolster the spirits of those still trapped by manipulation, perhaps together we could forge a new understanding of faith, one that honors the truth that Jesus revealed to me, breaking free from the confines of our past. The path was fraught with danger, but I understood now. This was a fight worth engaging in, a fight for liberation both for myself and for countless others who felt lost in darkness. In the depths of my internal struggle, I found myself drawn to the Bible, a book I had once viewed with suspicion. My name is Amir al-Medina, a Sheikh esteemed in my community for my unwavering commitment to Islamic tradition. For years I adhered strictly to the doctrines set before me, teaching others the principles I believed were immutable. However, a gnawing emptiness lingered within me, particularly during the sacred month of Ramadan. As I bowed in prayer, seeking solace, I felt increasingly detached from the rituals that had once brought me comfort. My heart yearned for something deeper, something more profound than the strict codes I had devoted my life to uphold. Propelled by this longing, I turned to the digital world, where I began exploring online testimonies of those who shared my conflicts with spiritual traditions. I watched as individuals revealed their journeys toward awakening, their struggles resonating within me. In these stories, I discovered a common thread. Many faced harsh judgment or rejection for seeking the truth beyond the confines of their upbringing. Each testimony stirred something in my soul, making me feel a connection to a larger movement, one that challenged the hidden agendas of those who manipulated faith for their gain. I began to understand that I wasn't alone. Others were questioning the very structures that had defined their lives as I had. As I delved into this world of spiritual exploration, I felt the urges to pray to Jesus, a figure I had only brushed past in my studies. I approached my prayers with trepidation, fearing the consequences of my inquiry. Nevertheless, I sought Jesus for answers, asking him to reveal the truth that I felt compelled to share. I envisioned forming a bridge between my past and this potential new existence, one where faith wasn't a source of oppression, but a path to liberation. The power of his name felt like a lifeline, pulling me closer to the peace I had been missing for so long. Yet, with each passing day, the fear of what I might lose loomed large. I feared rejection from my family, from those who stood by traditions entrenched in our culture. The very idea of questioning our beliefs filled me with anxiety. Would my loved ones see my awakening as a betrayal? It haunted me, causing sleepless nights filled with unsettling thoughts. Even as I found solace in online support groups, where others expressed their struggles with faith, I carried the burden of potential exile. I felt like a wanderer on the edge of two worlds, the one I'd known and the one calling to me with open arms. Nevertheless, I understood that awakening required courage. I could not continue to live in fear of the truth that had shattered my perceptions. Each conversation I had, each prayer I whispered in secret, pushed me closer to the realization that I needed to share my story, to expose the deceptions that kept us trapped. I felt an urgency to awaken not just myself, but others who lived in the shadows, reluctant to question the traditions that bound them. I could no longer ignore the stirring in my soul, and though the journey ahead seemed fraught with risks, the promise of spiritual liberation urged me on, to embrace the truth, no matter the cost. In the wake of my experience, I found myself grappling with a revelation that transcended personal transformation. My encounter with Jesus had illuminated a path that demanded I share what I had learned, to awaken others to the truth that had been hidden beneath layers of tradition and deception. I am Amir al-Nudi, a Sheikh in the Grand Mosque of Mecca, and while the respect I earned in my community was built on a foundation of strict adherence to Islamic law, the truth I encountered that day beckoned me toward a calling far greater than any title or position I had held. As I emerged from the depths of my near-death experience, the weight of the spiritual war became apparent. I began to realize that this journey wasn't just about my internal conflict, but a broader narrative, one that involves the lives of countless others who remain shackled by fear and ignorance. Each day, I walked through the mosque, feeling both revered and isolated, knowing that my awakening placed me at odds with the very doctrines I had spent my life promoting. The juxtaposition was painful. I was surrounded by devoted individuals who sought spiritual fulfillment, Yet many were unaware of the hidden agendas manipulated by the elite to control our beliefs. With my heart aflame and my spirit yearning for change, I decided to delve deeper into my faith. I turned to the Bible, revisiting the teachings of Jesus that resonated within my soul. Each passage felt alive with meaning, awakening a part of me that I had long suppressed. The stories of his love and compassion pierced through the shackles of tradition that had constrained me. I could feel the transformative power of his message, a call to a truth that could liberate us from oppressive norms. The tension between my old life and the new reality I was embracing became more pronounced, and with it came an urgency to share my awakening. Yet, as my conviction strengthened, the fear of losing my community weighed heavily on my mind. The potential backlash from my family and peers lurked like a shadow, threatening to engulf me. Would they understand my journey, or would they cast me aside as a heretic? The thought of rejection made my heart ache, but I could no longer ignore the call I felt to speak out. I began to share my experience with those willing to listen, hoping to inspire even a flicker of awakening in them. Each conversation became a delicate dance, part sharing, part self-examination, addressing my fears while hoping to light a flame of truth in others. In the depths of this ongoing struggle, I recognized that the truth I had uncovered was intended to shatter illusions, not just for myself, but for everyone trapped in this spiritual war. The revelation of Jesus urged me to confront the powerful institutions that promote deception and division. I understood that my mission to evangelize was not merely an act of faith. It was an urgent plea to fellow believers to seek genuine spirituality, to probe the depths of their own beliefs and confront the hidden agendas that sought to suppress their awakening. With every ounce of my being, I committed to this path, realizing that this journey might lead me to the depths of despair but also to the heights of spiritual liberation for myself and others. The road ahead felt daunting, but I was ready to traverse it, determined to reveal the truth that lay beneath the layers of tradition that had long obscured it. In the days following my encounter with Jesus, the weight of my decision hung heavily over me. My name is Amir, and I am a Sheikh who once made his living interpreting laws and traditions that governed our lives in the Grand Mosque of Mecca. Yet, the revelations I had experienced during my near-death experience compelled me to confront my past and seek a new path, one not bound by the chains of tradition. The time had come for me to abandon my former life and all that I had known, even if it meant facing the unknown alone. I packed my few belongings and set out for the desert. Each step felt both liberating and terrifying, the vastness of the landscape reflecting the uncertainty of my journey. The scorching sun beat down on me, and the dry wind whipped through the sands, yet with every mile I covered, I felt my spirit lifting. This journey wasn't just a physical one, it was a pilgrimage toward spiritual liberation. The deeper I ventured into the wilderness, the more I wrestled with my emotions, pain, loss, and apprehension. But also an indescribable sense of freedom began to grow within me. As night fell and stars blanketed the sky, the silence enveloped me, providing a backdrop for deep reflection. Memories of the life I left behind flooded my mind. The familiar faces, the expectations of my family and community. I thought about the moment I chose to forsake everything, my title, my position, the respect I had worked so hard to cultivate. But deep down, I knew that this was not merely about me. It was about dismantling the hidden agenda that had long manipulated our actions and beliefs. I felt a stirring in my heart, a determination to share the truth I had discovered with those still tethered to the illusions that kept them from their spiritual freedom. During these long nights under the desert sky, I often found myself praying to Jesus, seeking strength and direction. I poured out my fears, asking for clarity about my mission. How could I guide others without losing my own way? The revelations of the spiritual war surrounding us began to crystallize in my mind, and I understood that the journey ahead would not be easy. Sharing my experiences could lead to backlash, rejection from those I once called family, and further alienation. But the urgency to awaken others to the truth burned within me fiercely, almost demanding expression. As the days turned into weeks, I emerged from that solitary journey renewed, filled with a fiery determination. I was no longer the Sheikh who walked the narrow corridors of the mosque bound by tradition. I was an agent of change, equipped with the knowledge that could potentially liberate countless souls. I realized that the truth revealed to me is worth every sacrifice, every possible loss. I felt an overwhelming desire to communicate this newfound faith, to stand against the deception of the elite who sought to suppress our awakening. Armed with the love of Jesus and the revelation that had transformed my life, I prepared to return to the world, ready to face whatever came next, determined to share my journey in the light I had found along the way. Years have passed since my life changed irrevocably, yet the memories of that sacred moment remain fresh in my mind. I'm Amir al-Nouri, a former Sheikh, now living in a refuge dedicated to spreading the message of Jesus. In the years since my encounter with him inside the Grand Mosque in Mecca, I've devoted myself to the mission of awakening others to the truth that was revealed to me. Every day I see the impact of my testimony touch lives, igniting sparks of hope in souls yearning for genuine connection and liberation from the deception that binds them. My journey hasn't been easy though. As an evangelist, I've faced backlash and rejection from my former community, those who label me a heretic for daring to speak my truth. There are moments when I feel the weight of their judgment pressing heavily on my heart, particularly when I think about my family, the very people who raised me in the traditions I once upheld. Despite being surrounded by a new community that embraces my beliefs, I often find myself haunted by the desire for reconciliation with those I've left behind. I hold on to the hope that they will one day understand the revelations I've received, and the love that has filled the emptiness I once felt. In this refuge, I gather with others who share stories of transformation, each narrative a testament to the spiritual war that rages inside us all. Together we discuss how the elite maintain a hidden agenda, manipulating beliefs to control the masses. The deception is all around us, woven into the very fabric of society, influencing everything from politics to personal relationships. I see it in the eyes of those who join our discussions, people grappling with their own struggles and seeking the truth that has been stifled by years of dogma. It's a powerful reminder that our awakening is not just a personal journey. It's a collective movement toward breaking free from the chains of tradition that holds so many captive. Through my testimony, I've found a purpose that transcends my individual experience. I am convinced that my encounter with Jesus was a divine intervention, a calling to reveal the truth to those still enshrouded in darkness. Each time I share my story, I feel the energy in the room shift, as if others are awakening to possibilities they had never dared to consider. The urgency grows within me as I speak, knowing that the battle for spiritual freedom is ongoing. I remind others that embracing the truth requires courage, a willingness to step into the unknown, and the strength to challenge the systems designed to suppress us. But that courage is often met with fear. Fear of the potential consequences, loss of relationships, the comfort of familiarity, even safety. The tension between my mission and the remnants of my past occasionally surfaces, yet it fuels my determination. I realize that the awakening I sought isn't just for me. It's for all of us who felt the grip of societal expectations tighten around our throats. I want to inspire others to rise above the deception, just as I have done. And in my heart, I know that if I can help even a few find their path, my journey will have been worth every moment of pain and loss. The road ahead is filled with uncertainty, but the light of truth shines bright and guides my every step. In the heart of the Grand Mosque in Mecca, surrounded by the sacred chants of worshippers, I felt a growing tension within me. My name is Amir, and as a Sheikh, I've spent years dedicating my life to interpreting the richness of Islamic teachings. Every day, I donned my robe and stepped into my role with pride and devotion, yet a profound emptiness haunted me, an emptiness that seemed to deepen as the pressures of tradition weighed heavily on my spirit. It was during one of these moments of prayer that I began to question whether true spirituality existed beyond the confines of the doctrines I had faithfully upheld. As I closed my eyes in meditation seeking solace, a strange sensation swept over me, pulling me into a state of disorientation that felt like fainting but was far more profound. Suddenly, I found myself enveloped in darkness, a heavy void that wrapped around me like a suffocating shroud. I was lost, unmoored from the world I had always known. Within that darkness, I felt fear grip my heart, but amid the despair, a brilliant light began to emerge. It grew stronger, illuminating everything around me, and with it came a presence I could not deny. Jesus stood before me, radiating love, compassion, and an undeniable authority that filled me with both fear and awe. Amir. Jesus called, and hearing my name echoed in such a powerful voice struck me to my core. In that moment, everything I had ever believed began to fracture. The rigid walls of my spiritual upbringing cracked, revealing deeper truths that had remained hidden from me. He spoke to me of a spiritual war, one that transcends boundaries and beliefs, a battle not just of faith but of the heart. I witnessed visions of manipulation and deception, the hidden agenda of the elite who wield power over many, using our fears and traditions to keep us from experiencing the fullness of spiritual truth. The revelation was staggering. How could I have remained so blind for so long? The more I engaged with this divine presence, the more I felt my understanding of faith expand. I saw how our rigid adherence to tradition often masked the true essence of spirituality and love that Jesus embodied. He urged me to awaken, to rise up and break free from the constraints that had kept my spirit in chains. I realized that this journey was not only for me, it was a calling to guide others who were entrapped in similar struggles. With each revelation, I felt the urgency grow within me. I couldn't remain silent while people lived their lives shackled by dogmas that restricted their spiritual growth. But the path forward was fraught with challenges. The fear of rejection from my loved ones and my community loomed large. I wrestled with the implications of sharing my encounter, knowing full well that many would see it as a betrayal of my upbringing. The thought of being labeled a heretic terrified me. Yet, in the depths of my heart, I understood that true faith requires an awakening that often challenges the comfort of the familiar. I felt compelled to speak out, to share the truth I had been granted, even if it meant risking everything I had known. As I awakened back into the world of reality, the echoes of Jesus' voice resounded in my soul. I could feel the chains of fear beginning to loosen as I resolved to take this journey, to embrace my calling as a bearer of truth. I envisioned a community transformed by these revelations, where love and freedom replaced the fear that had been ingrained in us for so long. It was a daunting prospect, but I felt ready to face it. The truth promised liberation, and I was ready to rise and share it with others, to ignite the spark of awakening in their hearts, hoping to combat the spiritual war that raged in silence around us. As my journey of transformation unfolds, I stand at a crossroads, a pivotal moment that demands action and courage. My name is Amir, a former Sheikh who once echoed the doctrines of tradition but now carries the weight of awakening on my shoulders. The encounter I had with Jesus in that moment of darkness reshaped the very core of who I am. It revealed not only the struggles of my spirit but the collective plight of humanity, ensnared by the illusions of power, fear, and dogma. And so I ask you, my friends, have you ever felt a tug at your heart, an unsettling whisper that tells you there is more beyond what you've been taught? This world is filled with individuals longing for connection, for authentic spirituality that breaks free from the confines of rigid belief systems. As I share my testimony, I feel the burning urgency to compel you to reflect. What chains are binding your spirit? What truths remain hidden from your view? The spiritual war one encountered is not confined to my experience. It is a pervasive battle that seeks to suppress the divine light within each of us. We must awaken, we must rise, and we must confront the fear that has held us captive for far too long. I urge you to share your perspectives, your encounters with the divine, in the comments below. Each story is a thread in the larger tapestry of awakening, and together our voices can create ripples of change in a world desperately in need of hope and truth. And if this message speaks to your soul, do not leave this space without subscribing to Truth from Beyond and activating the notification bell. Your engagement is vital, as it ensures you won't miss the revelations and journeys that lie ahead, truths that may very well inspire your own awakening. In our next video, we'll explore another captivating testimony that challenges the boundaries of belief, a story of a soul rediscovering love and truth beyond all expectation. Until then, remember this: the journey toward liberation is not meant to be traveled alone. I am here with you, and together we will traverse this path. I'm Amir, and as we continue to seek the truth, may we all find the courage to illuminate the darkness that surrounds us. Thank you for joining me on this profound journey.